Hey, y'all, Tot Rod here. So the project I got today is I'm going to remake some chairs that I made a couple years ago. So here's the chair that I got. So the deal was I'm a big hip fella and I could not find a chair that would fit me in the width. So I decided to give it a try and make my own right here. And I made them out of oak, and I knew I needed to keep the wood as small as possible to reduce the weight. And oak seemed like a good option because it's strong for its size. It's plentiful, moderately cheap, okay? So essentially what I got to do is I'm going to take you through the process of basically how I do this. So I need to cut pieces up, and so I got to have a back piece, and that is 33 inches long, thereabouts. The legs are about 24 inches long each one. So that's essentially what I got to cut. I got to cut a back, a leg, and then I got to do a duplicate for the other side. Later I'll do the armrest, but we're not going to worry about that right now. So let me take you over here and show you how I get to that point of a finished product. So the first thing I'm going to do is dig in my wood stash right out here and try to find me a board that's appropriate width, because I don't like to waste wood. I don't like throwing it on the floor, throwing it away. I like to get just exactly what I need. So I know I'm going to make those pieces 1.5 inches wide for simplicity reasons. I'm going to make them 1.5 inches wide and about 7/8 thick. So that means 2 of them together is going to be 3 inches, and four of them together is going to be 6 inches. So essentially I want about a 6.5 inch wide board, and that's what I found out here. And so it's going to look like this, although that's not the board, but it's going to look exactly like that and start out that rough, right? So partly, the thing is, like this is rough sawed lumber, so sometimes it's like this. You want to try to find a piece that's as straight as possible, really, one of your straighter pieces. Sometimes you're going to find it where it's cupped here on the edge like a smiley face. And I had a few like that is a mild cup. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So if I put a straight edge on this right here, you can see the daylight between it, and that's the cup part or how much it's cupped. Okay, but that ain't too bad. But the piece I had over here was a lot rougher than that. So essentially, a lot more cupped, and I'll show you that in a minute. So essentially, I take this long piece, and I go 33 inches, maybe add a 1/2 inch, chop. 24 inches, chop. Another 24 inches, chop. Okay? Because I can get 4 pieces out of a board right here. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a left side and a right side. So that'd be 1 chair and a left side and a right side for the next one. And that'd be two chairs. So I don't really have any waste by using about a 6.5 inch board. So anyway, so here is the pieces that I've gotten cut so far. And these are for the backs. I'm going to make 4 chairs. So that will be a back and a back. A back and a back. I got to have one chair, 2 chair, 3 chair, 4 chair. 2 of these for each chair. Okay. Now the legs here are got to have 1 for the left. I mean, two pieces are going to be cut out of this, right down the center, 1.5 inches. So that'd be 2 pieces for the left, 2 pieces for the right. So this essentially is 1 chair, 2 chair, 3 chair, and I'll get the 4th chair here. But here's what I really wanted to show you. When I cut these pieces here, they were cupped like this right here. And you can see that gap there. Now, I could surface plane those down and plane that out. But with that much cup, by the time I get that level across there, I'm going to have this board significantly thinner than I want. And I'm already pushing the limit right now. I need all the thickness that I can get. So what I do is, knowing that it's got that much cup in it, I take it to the saw and I cut this 6.25 or 6.5 inch board down the center, so it'll let it flatten out as you see it has done here for the most part. So now it's not, the cup's not as much, and then I can surface plane each piece and not take off as much thickness. So the board can be like this, you know, and like this. So you need to straighten up one edge of it on the joiner and get it straight of the board, one edge, and you need to flatten it off like I've done here. You just kind of surface plane it and you flatten that off. And you're not looking for a perfect flat finish or a perfect smooth side. You just want a semi smooth. So it's laying here like this right here. So I want to straighten this up. So I need one side here straight. So I run it through the planer, and this will run on the flat table of the planer, and it will follow this straight edge when it is planing this side. So it will make this side exactly parallel with this side, and that will smooth it up. And so I will do the final smoothing on the planer, but the surface joiner, which is right here, is just simply there to kind of get it in the ballpark. So here's a really good example of a rough piece of wood and the curvature of what I'm talking about. See how it doesn't lay flat? You got this black shadowy line, and it touches on the end right there. It touches right there. And it almost kind of touches here. A little bit right in there, but not at all here. So what you want to do is run it across this right here with those blades spinning, and this table being flat, that will cut on the low spots, like right there it will cut. Right there it will cut, and then as I go across on the high spots, like right here, it won't touch it, and then I get on across, and then it'll touch on the end again, thereby cutting a level flat cut. And if you cut that enough, a couple of times it passes, you'll get a good straight edge on it there. And you got to do that like before you really start your project, because you've got to make the board straight. Running them through the planer will not make them straight. The planer then will just mash them down, and then when they come back out of it, they will just spring back to what they were. So you've got to get one side straight so that when you run it through the planer over here, like which is covered up with junk and wood and such that I have to clean off, when you run it through there, it will ensure it to be straight all the way around. So anyway, these are the legs, or no. These are the legs. These are the backs right here. So I've got more to cut. I've got armrests and such, but at least you see how it starts and how it goes. And then after I get these smoothed down, it's best to smooth this down as one unit and then cut and rip it. I mean, really it would have been best to leave this together in one board and smooth it down in one board and then rip the pieces out of it. But I had that cup that I had to deal with, so I needed to get that gone. So I made my first cut right off. But anyway, that's how you do it. So we'll talk about the armrest when I get to it. Okay, so here's a good example of what I mean by the surface plane. So on this side, we have the rough sawn look, as you can tell there. It's just rough sawn all the way down. Okay, so when I flip it over and I ran it on this joiner right here, here's what I had here. See how it hit here? The blades cut it here, but not here. And then it hit it here, but not in here. But it did cut here, but not here. And it did cut on the edge. And it cut all this right up in here, but not there. So that is what I consider to be a good 50% coverage, because at least I know it's hitting pretty much on the sides all the way down. And I'm good with that. See, it didn't hit there at all, but it did there. It did there and there. So when I run that through the planer, I'll put this side here down. So this side here then will go down. And that smooth side rides on that table right there. So I know that this is going to run straight on the table. So when the blades cut, they cut on the top right here, thereby leveling all of that off to match the back. So that's why you got to surface plane it just to hit the highlights here and give it some sort of straightness. So there's another great example of surface planing. See, it's obviously clear, it hit. Here it did not hit, so that shows you like the curvature of the board. Clear, 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 did not hit here. Commander Cody. $1930s, right there. In my original design of the chair, like this one here, this seat bottom right here, I made this top edge right here straight, okay? And I did a little curving on the bottom, and the reason why it's got a relief right here, so when it folds up, they clear this strut right there, because that lays right up in there. So I was thinking about that in my redesigning mind. So here's my pattern that I first started to design this chair off of, and as you can see, it's just straight, just typical straight. So when I drilled this and figured this out, I drilled multiple holes trying to figure out the proper pivots, and then I circled the ones that I kept. And here I kept drilling holes, and I got down to this very one right here on the bottom. You can see I got a point, an arrow going to it, and that's so close to the bottom. So when I cut those right here, I added onto it right here a little thickness to give me some more meat. In other words, a little bit of wood down below that bolt right there. So I was thinking about that when I was making this. And this is my original fold up pattern right here that I made. And let me get it unfolded here. Sorry about this. Okay, so that's my original pattern right there. I don't know if you can see it, but anyway, here's the seat part. So what I did was I redesigned this and cut this so it would be more comfortable, because I'm always thinking about the ergonomics of things. There we go. So what I decided to do was I had to keep the same relief in the bottom, but what I decided to do was put some arch in the top, because when I sit in this chair right here, my legs have a tendency to want to bear down a little heavy on this edge. And I thought if I could roll that over and give a little relief on my legs right there, that would fit more comfortable. Plus, then the truth of it is, like when this is rolled over, it's going to have my fabric stretch tighter because it pulls down, and that's going to pull it up right there. So anyway, I thought there's a much more comfortable design, and we'll see how it pans out. But I just put a little arch in it right there. And in other words, I kept it straight, and right here, then I started turning it down. So it will give your legs a little relief there. So we'll see how that works out. Yeah, this is the template that I first built and try to figure out all the pivot points to it. I don't know if you can see that or not as it's folding up. That's how I knew that it would fold up. When I got all this figured out right here, then I knew it would fold up flat like that right there. Here I am right here drawing them out, laying them out, and cutting them out. Sometimes you have a rough piece of wood and you try to work around it, and here's a good example of one. It's got this bark on this side, and I certainly don't want that. Cuts into the edge here a little bit. So what I'm going to do is cut my piece and put the relief cut here, so when I cut that up, it will cut a large part of that out. The other part that it leaves, I'm going to put it on the inside of the chair, and the nylon will wrap around it. It won't really be seen. It's not enough to hurt the structural integrity of it. So anyway, that's always an eye on placement of materials. Always, always, always. And I'm not sure about this freaking hole right here. That doesn't look too good. I'm sure I can probably doctor that somehow. I don't know, maybe it ain't severe as I think, but that's kind of going to be right in it. Maybe I could glue a piece over it, maybe. Drilling the seats for the folding support right there in the center. Those are the seat bottoms paired up. There'd be the folding support right there. Right there. And there. And if you've got everything jigged up correctly, and you've got your stop, you push to your stop every time. You're tight against your fence right back here. You're tight back here. You got everything tightened off. Everything's even and smooth like it's supposed to be. That's a little off, but close enough. Then you can drill it. You don't have to have it marked. You already know that that's where it's supposed to be because you've already drilled the other ones. And that's how you do that. You know it goes right there. 1/4 inch right there. Drilling holes for seat bottoms. It's all right there. The bottom, like the seat bottoms, front legs, the arms, the backs, the front seat strut across here, the leg struts right there attached to the leg across there on the bottom, the back legs, top struts for the top of the right there. It's all there. I'm tired of cutting, figuring it all out, keeping it all separate. Now it's time to mortise and tenon all of this, which will be another day's job. At least I got my seat bottoms cut out. See, I put an arch in them. Before, my other one then was just straight. See here? Straight. Now notice when I sit down, like this front edge kind of little bit cuts in the back of my leg slightly. So I figured I'd keep it the same and then just round it off. Because I got room for this bolt right here because of that. Then I got room to get rid of a little bit of material there. So that's what I did here. Rounded it off there. I think it'll be better. And this notch right here is there to clear this brace. When it folds up, it will roll up into that right there. I'm tired of cutting. I'm going in the house, sitting down, watching TV, and eat ice cream sandwich or something. Peace out. When you're building custom-made wood chairs, 100% handmade. You drill each piece. Because every piece is a left and a right. Every piece. See the difference in the spacing? Every piece. You have to be paired up. 1 chair, 2 chair, 3 chair, 4 chair. These are the front legs. All of these. And you've got recesses on opposite sides. You've got to get every one of them correct. Because they've all got to match up. Front legs. This is the back. Same way. We've got drills here. Then we've got 1 recess. You got to keep them left and right. You got to keep them all together. And this being the pattern, as you can see, the chaos in my head from figuring out which hole the circle always wins. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Trying to get the radius on it. And these are the back legs. Again, a recess here, 1 here. Chair 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one have to be paired up. And this would be the seats. Again, chair A, B, C, and D. Each one have to be paired up. There's a left and a right because there is recesses to drill on one side but not the other. These are the struts that I have yet to cut tenons on. These being the leg struts, and this being the top struts that I've not yet cut out yet. Next is the arms, which I've not drilled at all yet, but again, they have to be paired up. So here is the arms. You can see there's a recess here, and then I got to notch this here and make that for a left and a right. There is so much to consider when you're building a truly handcrafted product with no plans except what's in your mind. It is time consuming that most people have no idea. Not to mention that I had to cut all of this out from the raw rough sawn board to begin with. Peace out. Got my dado blade on it, so we're going to do a test piece. So we got the full piece in here. Let's take a look at it now. skimmed it, but let's see what we got. Yeah, that's a lot better fit. I'm a lot more happy with that. When I put it in there, it's snug. I don't really see any slop. I'm going to bolt this together, tighten that up, and glue that. So I'm good with that. Yeah, I'm good with that. Let's give her a cut, see what happens. I'm going to cut this is the seat out for A, seat A. We're going to cut out for the strut going right here. We got both pieces, both sides at the same time. So here's my seat, my notch, and my tenon, mortise, tenon. So let's see how good that these jokers fit together. A little bit of snugness, that's good. That's good, real good. Real good. So I'm going to put a little glue on it, put a bolt in it, through it to pull it together. That'll be good. And then that one will run through this one here. Looks good. All right, let's check our cut here and see how it fits. That's the mortise, and this is the tenon right here. See how this goes together and works. I believe that'll work really good. Yep, I think that's going to work. Time I get glue on it and then get a bolt in it to pull it together, it's going to be fantastic. Getting all these holes drilled exactly the same. The secret is using a stop and a vise on your drill press. So there's a stop right there. And locate your piece of wood exactly the same spot, lock it in every time. You don't even have to mark it, you just know right where to drill. And you drill it down to the depth stop right there, and then you're good. Okay, so let's talk about why I have these strips glued in here on all of these right here that run up and inside here. When you're working with the laws of physics, there's many limitations, and building a chair is a good example of one of those. So this chair has to fold up, and it needs a hinge point, and that hinge point is right here on the silver bar, goes across to that location over to this nut right here. So the physical geometry rule that I could not work around is when I fold this up, this seat needs to come up and lay right close to the back, like it does right here, the back and the seat. Okay, I could not figure a way to hinge that other than put that bend in it. And that bend that I'm referring to is this piece here where it goes up. In other words, I could not put my hinge point here because when it folded up, then the seat would occupy the same space as the back. So that angle, like that right angle, allowed it to rise up and be beside the back. So, but I knew another limitation of the physical abilities of wood is its strength of cross grain across here. And let me go back and show you what I mean by that. Wood is very strong with the grain going this way. In other words, it's very hard to break it like that. But wood with the grain going here, it's a lot easier to break it over than to rock this over. So I knew that I don't have to worry about the strength of this, but back here, I have to worry, like if I tie this part right here off to something solid and there's something else attached down here, is it going to try to hinge it and break the grain right here? Because that is one of the bad aspects of wood. One of the negatives is it's easy to break it across here. It's very hard, near impossible to break it perpendicular to the grain, but it's very easy to break it parallel to the grain. So that's the reason why I glued these pieces in here. I simply made a saw cut and inserted a piece of wood with the grain going the opposing way, which is exactly what plywood, the concept of plywood, is about. And that's what makes it stable. So this piece of wood right here will give this cross grain here stability and give it strength. So it would literally have to pull that piece in half then before it broke over here. And because the grain's running like this, it's not going to pull it in half very easy. So that makes it a lot stronger. So I had to, another one of the processes of building these chairs, every one of these I had to cut a dado in and glue a strip of wood in it here. And if you're wondering what this yellow is, that's the polyurethane glue. Most time people refer to it as Gorilla Glue, but Gorilla is simply a brand. The actual term is it's a polyurethane glue. And you got to be careful how you use it. A lot of people don't realize that polyurethane glue is great, but it's not meant for everything. And the reason why, polyurethane glue has great abilities to hold strong in wet water and wet conditions. It has really good strength of gluing end grains together. It has a quick curing, like a quick dry time, whereas regular wood glue does not have that much. But this stuff will expand as it dries, so you need to always make sure that your parts are clamped up tight, or else it will push it apart. It is messy. It is not water cleanup. It is very hard to clean up. Really, the only way to do it is just let it dry and then sand it off. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but for these chairs and being in an outside environment, it's really the best choice. So it's the way it is. So I've got to sand and clean all this crap off until it looks like this right here, which I've already done there. So that will give it some strength. And when you see wood grain like this, if you see something made, it's not there for decorative. Although it is appealing to the eye, that is there for stability, to keep this from breaking and to give it some strength. Those are all the seat bottoms for these chairs that I'm making right here. Record video. I don't think it's even fucking recording, honestly. Okay, we're going to hope it's recording. So, here's how I put these together. Little thought process. Got to make sure that these holes are like cleaned out. Okay, we're good there. Put this little stop on it so I can limit how far that goes in there. We got these special kind of nuts right here. I'm not sure what they call them. Yeah, I'll just show you this right here. Right there. And we got to fit them in there. And one goes in here. I'm pretty sure that my joint is much better than a factory would do. I try to do like I don't know if it's not really a mortise and tenon, but it's similar. Anyway, and just for added inch, and then that's glued in with polyurethane glue, and then just for added insurance, I put these bolts in it. and I don't want them hanging out, so I've got some clever countersunk kind of minimalist bolt here. Just tighten them up. I gotta say, that's probably a lot better than the factories would put to mass produce. Got a little glue they gotta sand off, but they're lawn chairs. These aren't fine furniture. Anyway, got these bolts in it for added insurance. Will that be enough to hold that joint tight? I don't know. But it's the best I can do, and it's far better than mass production would do. I can assure you of that. So we're going to put these back joints together for these folding chairs right here. First thing I need to do is make sure that the glue is cleaned out of this hole right here. So I made this little jig here to, like a depth stop, so it won't go too deep. That's good. And that's good. Okay. All right. So what we're going to use is these kind of special kind of nuts right here. I'm not sure what they are, but they're pretty unique. Made for furniture though. So we're gonna put this cap in here. First thing I'm gonna do is get it over here where I can work with it here. Hopefully. Okay, and we'll put a little Is that joint good enough? I don't know. I know it's the best that I can do, and I know it's certainly a lot better than mass production factory would do. They would never put this bolt in for insurance. Hell, they probably wouldn't even cut that joint right there. At any rate, those are the backs for my chairs right there. So I want them to be pretty strong, because that piece right there, that joint and that joint is going to be one of the only joints that it keeps it from racking over. One of the struggles of engineering, as many things on this chair, has been a bit of a struggle. One of the issues I'm having is I had to make this metal tab right here, plate, and it's made to go in here, and it's made to pivot as this back or the whole chair folds up. It gives it some flexibility so it can fold flat. I can't figure a better way to do it. However, the thing I'm having is, and this is just trying to build a better mousetrap, that goes bolted on the side there like that. Now, yes, I could bolt that on there and just as it pivots have it rub the wood, which would be acceptable, but I wanted to do a little better. I want to put a little bit of a buffer between that, but it can't be very thick, because ultimately the head of that bolt has got to be flush with the head, like with the side of this rail right here when it comes down there. So let me show you how I'm going to fix that. So enter Mr. Recycler right here. So got this milk jug. I was thinking something plastic, something pretty tough, but yet really thin. Mr. Recycler. So here's my piece that I cut out of the side here. And here's where I like to think I sometimes excel. I've got these gasket punch sets right here. I've got multiple sizes right here. So what I'm going to do is use these to punch out a buffer that goes right in between here like this. That will give it a plastic surface, something slicky to ride on, without just chewing the paint completely off of it. So I've got about the size that I want here for my tab. So first thing I'm going to do is punch out the center of it. So we'll take it about right there. We'll punch it over top of this leg on the table so it's super solid. When you're punching gaskets, you need a very solid place to punch. Very solid. Okay, we've done that. Now we'll center it with this right here. Look at there. Now I can take and push this in there like that, and that will go like that. Actually, it won't be installed quite that way. Hold on, let me show you how to really be installed. Man, those fit snug. That's kind of good. This will push in here. This will push on, and then that will give it a buffer to rub on and not rub on the paint and scuff it up a lot. Just makes it more slicky. Just building a better mousetrap, you know. Hot Rod, peace out. So here's the level of ridiculousness on detail that I went to on these chairs. Is it ridiculous, really? Probably not, but I'm definitely not getting my money's worth out of these chairs, or somebody's going to get more than their money's worth out of it. Anyway, it's not really cost effective to build these, but you can see these at the Evil Shindig coming up. So let me give you an example, a little insight into my thought process here. So when I fasten these right here on here like this, I wanted a nice flush-headed screw right there. Not really a bolt, because the bolt would have a head, you know, bigly protruding out, and I wanted it as flush as possible so it can be flush with this edge right here. And I wanted the same thing here because I didn't want this to be like a point like these right here. I don't really like these. I don't like how they'd be rubbing up against people. In fact, I'm going to have to trim those off. And I wanted it smooth here. So what I did was I found these things online here, and they're little nuts. Now I could have put them in going this way, meaning through that, and then put the screw on this other side. But I thought about that, and I decided that I wanted to put the sleeve running through the wood because this is smooth and it's bigger than the screw. So that means it will dig into the wood a lot less. So I drilled these out so that this goes, sorry, hard to convey this. So this goes the full width, but the problem was that doesn't go the full width of the wood. It's probably acceptable, but I want it to go all the way over. So I ordered these longer ones, and they will go all the way to the edge. So that'll work out even better than ever. So by it being smooth, well, hell, I lost that one. So by it being smooth and not with threads on it like this that will dig into the wood, this will pull evenly and smoothly on the wood, and it fits snugly, so it's not any slop. It fits in there, and it goes just about nearly all the way to the edge, and that's plenty good with me right there. Hey y'all, I accidentally hit the wrong button. So now what I can do is screw my plate on here. Now it doesn't stop then with that. So the plate here, I'm going to use, when this comes back, I'm going to use a 1/4 inch bolt right here. And I'm going to use a regular bolt on that. But the truth of it is, these screws right here are slightly smaller than a 1/4 inch. They are metric. So I had to drill, so that meant drilling one a 1/4 inch and the other one smaller. Sure, I could have drilled both of them 1/4. They both look like they're almost like the same anyway. But by doing so, I wanted to minimize then the slop in this. So you can see right here, if I put that in here in the 1/4 inch one, look how much slop that I get through it. It ain't much, but it's just that much. But by drilling this just so slightly smaller on the other side, look how it is now. Look, there's no slop in that at all. None. It fits it so much better. So it means tight. And tight means less wear. And in fact, so much that, notice this little space on the head right there, but then between that, it's a little slight space right there. Right there. Come on, focus. Right there. Well, I needed to countersink then this piece of wood, or this piece of metal, just slightly, so that that fit down in there. Anyway, that's the sort of detail and ridiculousness that I go to trying to build a better mousetrap. Will it pay off in the end? I don't know. I think it will definitely make it better. Trying to make I only got the bugs worked out. Now it's time for strapping and webbing.